Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have Bobbi Vogel here with me on the show. Bobbi is a gifted clairvoyant healer who founded Etheric Medicine, which bridges the gap between spirit science and medicine. She also connects directly to spirit to channel what is necessary to clear the stagnant energy that triggers disease within the body. And ultimately, she is helping others recognize and activate their own dormant power. Hey there, Bobbi. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to have you. And I would like to start with my cliche opener, and it is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You have 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
Being in service.
Yeah, with 9 floors to discuss what that means. Let's do that.
And, yeah.
And we'll do that.
Yes.
Perfect. So why don't you start with just giving us a little bit of your backstory and whatever feels relevant to share. I know you prior to us recording, you started sharing a little bit with me, and it's like, hold that. This is really good stuff. I want to hear about it, and I want them to hear about it. So,
Yeah, so I love, where you're obviously in Venice, right? So that we started talking about this, which is my experience of Venice was I was a top producing real estate agent in San Francisco for almost 18 years. And I decided to move to Venice Beach. I'd always wanted to live there because I'm from Chicago originally. And so I had this dream as a kid of living there. And so I did that about 7.5 years ago, might be even 8 years, time flies. But and I have a adopted son who is now 19, and I adopted at 1 who, due to the circumstances of his birth, has a lot of challenges. And so he was in, a high care facility, and I moved him from the Bay Area to down south, to Altadena, and within a short period of time, they actually kicked him out of that facilities. That's a long story. I don't want to get on the system's broken soapbox.
Right.
I think we don't have all day, right? So, I was working at Abercrombie Real Estate, and I was trying to revive my business because I had decided it was a good time to move because I had 5 deals in escrow renovation, because I did a lot of work with people flipping properties, investors. And so I had 5 deals in LA, and they were all going to close within like a week, and which was like $220,000 worth of commission, 230. And so I was like, great, that's a great,
transition,
transition. That's smart, right? So if I'm going to go, I might as well go now. And so I did, and I got there 3 days later. It was a woman who was in contract and all of these. She's bailed on all of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was scrambling, and I didn't realize, wow, LA market is so different than the Bay Area,
Very competitive, right?
Very competitive. Like, oh my God. So, and then shortly after that is when my son ended up back at home with me, and I had gone from living in homes and owning homes and duplexes to being in this apartment to get kind of my feet under me. And he, anyway, stuff didn't go well. I found myself going from, making a great living to having to leave my Mercedes Benz in the parking lot at Ross on Lincoln, and taking my
walking
Bobbi
distance
like,
from where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
Literally like
you're
a
right.
7-minute walk.
And that's what's every time I drive by that Ross, and which isn't often anymore, but I just remember that and how that felt for me. And because people called me Midas in the Bay Area, like I just effortlessly was, because I didn't realize then that I was connecting souls to the souls of a home, and it was really easy for me to do. So looking back now, I understand it. But anyway, then he was in school, a regular school, for the first time in his entire life. He was no longer in a program that assisted him with his needs, and he didn't do well with it. So he was not in school a lot. So I couldn't work a lot, and I slowly lost everything, basically, to, in the essence of time. I got stripped of everything but faith. He got in some trouble and, went to juvenile detention, and so before that happened, I was depleted and terrified. My parents are both on the other side. Didn't know what to do. I had no real friends down there yet, and
Wow.
And I started, and this is just the truth, right? So I started saving the meds that he was on, because I had learned that they drop your blood pressure if you overdose on them. And so I couldn't get out of this mess, like, no matter what I was trying, no matter what I was doing. And I couldn't turn it around, and I was
when you
scared.
were saving these meds with the thought of committing suicide.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I actually came up with a suicide plan, and this was a Wednesday, and I dropped my son would go to school, and he would be there, and then I'd have to pick him up within an hour or two, typically, because they would want him to leave. And this was a Wednesday, and we had a eviction sticker on our door at Lincoln Place Apartments, and I was like, what in the has happened to my life? And we had a short time to still be in the apartment, and I had a pillow in my hand. You can't see my demonstrative moves, but I had a pillow in my hand, and I was in the bedroom, and I was booger crying and like having a pillow fight with the wall in the bed, and I was screaming, I was so scared, and I was like, what? And I felt like a piece of shit, And is this a family show? No, I'm just kidding.
Not anymore.
And so I really did. I just started screaming out loud. And I had done a lot of work, but I wasn't yet really connected to like God in a way that, because I was raised Catholic, and my dad was killed in a car accident when I was 20. So I pretty much was like, hey, if there is a God, fuck you, anyway. Right. And so, but I had spirituality and in and out, and, had done some work with healers and things like this. But in this moment, I heard my voice say, God fucking help me. Mm-hmm. And help me. What did I do so wrong? Am I this bad? Am I this big of a piece of shit? I can't turn this around.
Yeah.
And so I need to know, I'm going to leave. I'm coming back on Monday. So my plan this was Wednesday. My plan was to go believe. I take the pills and drop my kid off, take the pills, and then be done with it. And because I couldn't bear it anymore. And I said, so here, I am giving God ultimatums in a time frame,
Yeah, right.
Like, it's Wednesday, and I'm coming back on Monday.
Coming to see you on Monday, or your counterpart, one of them.
And I mean it. it, and so, but I was mad, and I was just and mad at myself, mad at spirit, mad at my parents, and I said this, and I said, so if I'm not supposed to hit the reset button, I need you to tell me, and I need a huge sign, because I'm too depleted for subtleties. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, don't make me interpret in this state.
Yeah. And in that moment, though, for the first time, really, I heard my human voice saying, in response, I could see my guides off to my left, and for
Wow.
many years, I always kind of saw this choir of people on my right side every time I would meditate, and I actually have it tattooed on my right arm to remind me that I was not alone and that I did have guidance, but I would lose that,
Right.
through hard times. So now they're on my left, and I heard myself responding to them out loud, and I said, but I just don't know what it is I have left to heal, because they had said you still have healing to do. And I responded out loud and said, but I don't know what it is. I'm not trying to renege on what it is I said I would do or heal. Can you please help me? I'm scared, and lead me to why I'm here. And in that moment, I understood that when I used the word renege, it was in an understanding, because all of a sudden I was in my higher self. Now I understand that that's what happened. I didn't I was always like, wow, that was just a crazy moment, right?
Yeah.
But now that I hang out in this realm and hang out with God and peeps and angels and other people's peeps and dead people on the other side, I'm like, okay, now it's clear. My higher self connected to my guides to save my life, right? And I said, I'm here for it. I just don't know what it is. And so, but please help me, I need a big sign that I should stay here. And so then then Thursday came, Friday came, Saturday came. This woman that took me to lunch, and she, at the end of the lunch, I didn't talk about any of my circumstances, nothing. I hadn't seen her in a really long time. And I was like, hey, I'm almost leaving. I don't care. Right? I don't give a shit. And so I didn't talk about it, and I was actually relieved. And she said at the end of lunch, she's like, hey, have you ever heard of Agape? And I thought it was a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I've not heard of that place, the restaurant or whatever. She's like, no, it's not a restaurant. It's a Michael Beckwith. I'm like, I don't know Michael Beckwith. She's like, from The Secret. I'm like, no, I don't know The Secret. So she's like, oh, I heard it's a non-denominational community. You should check it out. And it's weird because she didn't talk about anything spiritually based during the lunch. And so I was like, whatever, who cares, And the next morning I woke up Sunday and I was like, Agape. And I pulled my laptop on my lap, and I was so distraught. And I was like, okay, one more day to go. And I saw what time it was starting, and I was like, literally still in what I slept in. And it's like God grabbed me by the back of the shirt, and my parents, and got me to Agape with my son. And now I know it's possible, right? Because I do the same, but it's like within seconds, Michael Beckwith. Oh, so first of all, I'm like, wow, this guy's a big deal. There's 2,000 people in this room.
Funny. I just had an event here a few days ago, and someone we were doing a gifting thing as a Burning Man inspired event, and someone brought a bunch of Agape Michael Bernard Beckwith DVDs or CD. They're sitting a few feet from me right now. This is from some event in Atlanta, and so really, really cool.
So I didn't know, and so I walked in the room. They had me my son and I stand there because I got there just a few minutes late, and they were meditating, so they don't let you in, but the doors open, and I was like, whoa, a room, probably at least 2,000 people. I could be off, probably more, but standing room only. But oddly, there were 2 seats in the far back right corner, and so I quickly sat down, and my hair was a mess, worse than it is right now. People can't see it. And I, within probably 30 seconds, I had my shirt pulled up because I had tears literally just pouring like water from my face, because Michael Beckwith was channeling my parents and God. And to this day, I say, I don't know if I knew what day that was, I'd love to hear what he was actually saying, because I wonder if it really was what I was hearing, because it was so unique. Those literally things I was praying about, and like to the detail.
Wow.
And I heard my parents speaking to me, and these details about things like that, my suicide plan, like, but the circumstances of my life, like this whole thing. And in that was the moment, I say, like, faith for me was born, that unwavering knowing that I was, number one, so deeply loved.
Yeah.
And even though in the physical world, I didn't have a lot of evidence of being loved. And so for the first time, I knew, like, oh my God, they heard me. God heard me, because here I am being grabbed by the back of the shirt. And I never, even though leaving that place, I walked out with my head up for the first time in months. And I nixed my suicide plan. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew that if I asked for the help and to be guided through whatever was going on, that I would be.
Yeah.
And so it was completely different for me. And I love, because that's, in sessions or in groups or whatever, for me, I know that I'm doing the same thing for people as well. And I, not knowing who Michael was too, I walked out of there and I saw him leaving, going towards the front door, and he had these big guys walking with him, but it didn't occur to me they were bodyguards.
Right.
And so I go walking up, I'm like, hey, Michael, not even Mr. Beckwith or Dr.
Yeah.
I was like, Michael. And he turned around and the guys all stepped forward, because I just started walking up to him. Mm-hmm. And they stepped in, and he, like, had them back off. And I just said, you saved my life today.
Wow.
And he stepped forward and gave me a hug, and then looked me in the face and walked away. And I got to see him several times after that. But, and then, where the community you live in, right? Then we got evicted and my son got arrested and all those things. But I would walk up and down Venice Beach, your gorgeous, blessed beach that you're right next to where you live. And every day I would walk up and down the beach praying.
Wow.
With a journal and a blanket. Please help me. Please, guide me, lead me. And miracles started unfolding. A psychic told me, it's time for you to do ayahuasca. And I was like, ayahuasca? What is that?
Wow.
So anyway, that's when I started becoming connected to how powerful, in ayahuasca, re-witnessing all of the trauma that I had experienced and living through it. I came out of it in the morning being so empowered by my strength.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's a reason I'm still here. And that's when I started asking, what is that? What is that reason? Because there's no way that kid lived through all of that just to suffer.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What a journey from, it's such a hero's journey tale from, success to that to now, this sort of new, have reinvented yourself in a totally new way where now, of course, you're doing incredible work in the world, like I mentioned at the top of the show. So let's talk about this chapter. Perhaps we can start with you talking about, etheric medicine and, the etheric body and sort of how that sort of started opening up for you as you began your own healing journey.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's a great segue to say I reinvented myself, because it's kind of funny to say that I never saw this coming. Like, I didn't leave ayahuasca, for instance, and go buy spiritual linen pants and
What? You didn't get the white linen?
No,
What?
I didn't. I used as spirit guides people in the now, actually, and this is something that is really important to talk about, is what's dropping in, is I found my way here because I asked every day, what is it that I signed up for? And whatever it is, that's what I want to find my way to, because I want to have that level of reverence for my soul, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I didn't know, I had no, um, I let it just be that. I had no thing around what it had to be. Did it have to be
Mm-hmm.
relevant? Did it? And not in a million years, although I can look back now, I was, I wanted to be a doctor since I was a little kid, and I was pre-med when my dad was killed, and I was a paramedic in Chicago and Oakland and all these things. And so I do have an incredible knowledge of medicine and the human body and everything. So it was all training, as if as everything is for all of us, right? Like
Sure.
every single thing we go through and we
Leads you
learn
to
and
where
we Yep.
what you need next, right? You're picking it up
Yeah.
along the way.
And so I was still trying to do real estate, and I was just utilizing my connection to spirit for myself. My guides were for me. They're here for me, as they're here for you. Yours are
Yep.
for you, and everyone. And God, we have a unique relationship with, because we are so unique and individual, and our soul is on such a unique journey. So I was just staying in my own lane, as I still do, and utilizing what I was learning for myself and my own healing. And then somebody said, it's time for you to find a teacher. And I'm like, a teacher for what? Like,
Yeah.
and I obviously recovered from homelessness, and I lived right down the street from you on 3rd and Rose, and life was great and miracles unfolding. And I say is like, so I went to Linda Howe for Akashic Records because I had known her from Chicago. So all of a sudden I saw her face on Facebook, and I was like, well, there's my teacher, blah, blah, blah. And so that's when I really understood how connected I am to not just my guides, but angels, and, and able to communicate, and how they communicate with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that still was for myself. And then I started realizing from spirit, I'm supposed to start doing sessions. What? Like, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do this with other people? What?
Yeah.
Like that I joke with spirit and say, because spirit has such a great sense of humor, it's like they had to drag me, kicking and screaming. It's not true, really, but it never occurred to me.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me. And so then when I started doing these sessions in my garage of like my last flip property, so I started renovating projects. That's how I got out of homelessness. And I was living in my where I met my wife, actually,
Mm-hmm.
in there. And I started being taught and shown the etheric body, like
Mm.
our light body. And I was shown that I mentioned to you the breathing the light, spirit taught breathing the light exercise. I was taught that in my garage slash sanctuary by spirit in my own, as I was healing or asking, how do I heal myself? Because I wasn't I wasn't sure I was in the right body. And I don't I don't think I've even talked about that on any other summit or podcast. Um, but I was asking, am I in the right body to serve?
Yeah.
I asked God and my guides, and I was in there, and with my journal and doing what I was doing and communicating and learning and communing. And because I didn't really identify my whole life. I mean, I've been a tomboy since I was born, and my whole life I had it, but I realized, wow, I don't really identify with like, yay, girl power.
Right. Right.
But I don't really identify with like, yay, boy power. I love, it's like,
Yeah.
but I was wondering, why is that? Because all of my friends are so like invested in like this,
Right.
feminism and girl power and all this stuff. And, and so I asked the question in earnest, am I in the right body? Because I just want I want to serve. That's when I was like, I was so humbled by this process. And and wanting to just serve in whatever way I said I would. And in that moment, literally God, who is not, a religion, it's
Right.
non-denominational.
Hold on. It's not a white guy on a
Yeah,
throne with a long
it's
beard.
not, no.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Who's shaming you and
Yeah.
punishing, and choosing whether you live or die. It's, it's for me is like this beautifully powerful um um energy, and that is masculine but so vulnerable and loving, and which is healing in itself, right? And so God said stand up, and literally I was, I was see the energy, it's not like you see
Wow.
a guy with a thorns, it's, or I mean, God
Yeah.
on a,
Yeah.
and I stood up because I am that, it's that real. It is real. And I stood up, and that's when then I saw, it was like I was taught with this funnel that was coming off the top of my head, and God literally blew light. I thought it was air, and it was light into it sounds nuts, but it's the truth. Blew it in, and then I was instructed to breathe in.
Wow.
And as I pulled in air, the light started coming from the top of my head down into my body. And then I was, so for people who can't see, my hands turned to light, and I was using my hands of light to take density and stagnation out of this etheric body that I could now see.
Wow.
And I was like, when you're in this realm, you're like, well, okay, this is totally normal. Totally. This is, it makes sense. And so I'm clearing this energy with my hands as I continue to pull the light in with my breath. And then I looked down at my body, and I could see my energy body as I can see other, people's now energy body and meridians. I've been up leveled and taught and in divine timing as I needed it, but these are tools that I signed up for before I came in here.
Yep, right.
So now I'm just being taught what I already know, which is the brilliance, right? It's like we
Remembering.
already know, right?
Right.
Remembering. Oh, that's right. That's how you use that. And so, long story short, I was taught that at the time, it was for me earth and sky, masculine, feminine, because this teaching came forward because I said, am I in the right body? And this is what, stand up. And so what I needed to do was heal my energy and balance my masculine, feminine. And which, so I did, and then you do it, it's on my website, as we said, but, and then I pull in so the sky, earth energy is God energy, and the earth energy is feminine energy. And so you pull the God energy to the belly button, you pull the earth feminine energy to meet it after clearing your pelvis, your, everything, because that's where our wounds reside, right? Like our emotional wounds reside and sit in our etheric body before they make it into our physical body being the hologram of our etheric body, not the other way around. And it's funny because Montel Williams is a friend of mine, and we've been talking about this for years. This is 5.5 years ago that this all started happening. And he's like, Bobbi, the world's not ready for this. I'm just telling you, I mean, I love you. And I know that what you he talks about all the time, that what you've done for my family, but like people aren't going to believe this, that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care, because it's the truth. They're going to believe it one day.
Yeah.
And now here we are, people finally, by the grace of God, realizing and understanding how we really truly heal.
Yeah.
Is by healing our etheric body, getting the emotional wounds out and the stagnation of them out of our etheric body. We don't need to talk about them for 20 years in therapy, because all we do is speak to the wound, is strengthening the vibration of them, actually. And we say this, we don't mean don't talk about it. What we mean is acknowledge it, have compassion for it, and then release it.
You know, the amount of synchronicity in your whole recounting here is just really a trip. I would love to just share for a moment.
Yeah.
As the listeners know, I just love seeing the threads of connectivity and synchronicity.
Always.
And it's been like, you know, so Saturday night, as we're recording this, what is it, Thursday? The same night I was gifted these agape, you know, recordings. I had my very close friend and someone who's here, one of the people that I'm closest to, you know, at this chapter of my life. She's been opening up, having these kinds of experiences where she's like starting like that evening. It started with, well, first with my son sitting down with me and saying, you know, Dad, I want to talk to you about, you know, I've been really feeling through like, you know, he has a girlfriend, and you know, he's super like the quintessential artist, poet soul, right? So I'm probably a little more masculine than he is. You know, I would say have a little more masculine energy. And he's like, you know, Dad, I've really been trying to feel my way through. Like I feel this powerful feminine energy, but yet, you know, I feel my masculine too, and I'm trying to understand. You know, he's in his early 20s, trying to figure it out, and so we had this long, you know, powerful talk about this experience he's having, which, you know, speaks to what you're talking about. Then it goes from this dear close friend who she's starting to open up and having a lot of experiences. You know, she's like a child star in Denmark, and you know, in a bunch of shows and movies and things, and then all of a sudden, not planning at all, she's opening up to spirit and being guided to do energy work on people. And I'm sitting with her right after that conversation with my son. And by the way, probably the biggest part of her healing journey too, and she's been through a lot and just grown tremendously in the last 6 months alone, is through agape and Michael Bernard Beckwith. Yeah. And so she's sitting there with me, and she's like, oh my gosh, Brandon, I'm seeing this entity, and I thought it was an angel at first, but it's actually your higher self. And she's like sitting there seeing and communing with my higher self. She's like, oh my gosh, it's like holding this light like infinitely, and nothing shakes it. And, you know, just having like this communion with my higher self. And so that was just my night a few nights ago, you know, this masculine, feminine thing, followed by someone who's so near and dear to me, opening up to seeing, you know, spirit. And in this case, you know, an extension of my soul, I guess, you know, as she saw it, it was like my higher self or soul. And so
that's what my sessions are like, you know. It's like I don't see the physical body as much as I see the soul, and because the soul resides in the etheric.
Yeah.
You know, and we come in with it lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So I don't know if I interrupted you, but that's
really just it. It's just like everything you're talking about has been like so in my field in the last few days.
Yeah. You know? And I like to, you know, this is how spirit rolls, you know, and I think it's kind of cool to say, you know, you and I have never met. You know, a mutual, you know, friend reached out to me, and we've never talked, we've never communicated, and we just jumped on here this morning, and I, you know, I said, hey, let's roll, because spirit brings in whatever is necessary to be in service to whoever's listening to this, which is, you know, why so when I get on a roll like that, it's channeling what spirit wants us all to hear. We don't have any planned thing here. So I love that there's so much synchronicity, because it's not shocking, you know. It's like, of course there is, you know.
Right. And the fact that you look a little like Ellen, and I just saw that, and I just saw that Michael Bernard Beckwith is about to be on Ellen.
Know.
Like,
I know.
Let's throw that in.
I know people say that a lot. So.
I figured.
So that's cool, because, you know, so I love, there's synchronicity. So there's a couple of things that drop in here from spirit when you started talking about your son and your friend, and then, you know, and seeing your higher self and communing with the higher self. It's like, number one, we're all capable, and we need to do that for ourselves, for our soul first. It's not for so
And that was
this
her
is
message to me too. I forgot to mention that as it's
okay.
holding this infinite light that is unshakable, and it's saying that you can do more to allow more of it in, which is exactly
Right.
what you were describing.
Which
I
is
forgot to add
where
that
the
part.
whole world is right
Yep.
now.
Right.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful thing to bring in here, right? So she brings in that message for you so we can speak more on that today, because it's vital right now on the planet. You can see that this everything within this low vibration that's happening, which is, we're not political. I'm not, it's like, the vaccines, all the anger and the fear and stuff that's going on, and the low vibration of all of it is being fed by, everyone's we're supposed to connect to our guides and God and all that is, because we are light beings. We are spirit and body, and we are in a new vibration, and it's simply time for us all to start coming inward and connecting, as I did when I said, God fucking help me, is like, come in and start asking, lead me to and through whatever it is I need to heal, and lead me towards the purpose I signed up for when I was in my higher self, before I came in and became limited by my human mind, and I don't remember who I am, right? So
Yeah.
lead me to that, guys, because I want to honor my soul at that level, and spirit, right? And God. And we don't get demerits if we don't, but the connection. So when your guides start coming in and connecting with you, and you're realizing, just like your friend, for instance, when you're in the half the planet is when we realize that we're being guided, and I'm understanding this is how they communicate with me. That's for you. That doesn't mean you jump out and you quit your day job and you start doing psychic readings on people. And this is not a make wrong or a judgment, but this is a really big deal right now, because we're supposed to heal first and foremost with our connection to our guides, because that's why we brought them with us. That's why we asked them to be around us first and foremost. What did I say? What wounds did I take on as tools for my soul's transcendence?
Yeah.
We don't, but people are getting into their healing a little bit, and then they're like pulled by the need to make it mean something to the outside world. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
so the big message from spirit is like, stay within until you get further orders. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Right.
It's
Right.
like, and you'll know when you do, because the synchronicities you will be clearly divinely guided. But
Yeah.
people are really becoming so intense with this. I'm trying to connect, and I'm meditating 10 hours a day, and I can't. And spirit says, why? What is the rush? But
Mm-hmm.
what's the intent about? Like, what is this intent
Yep.
thing going on right now? It's just for you. Calm down.
Yeah. And I think an important addition to that is your state as it is now. You may be seeking to connect more or do more or achieve more or expand into what's my next calling or, mission. And whatever that may be, as you said, it's like stand by, it will, in divine timing, it will be revealed. And whatever that will be no more divine than the state in which you find yourself now. So when you can understand that it's all infinitely divine, there is no moment that is less divine than another, you can, like you're saying, relax into the process, the unfolding. You don't dance, to get to a certain spot on the floor. You don't listen to a song to hear the last note. The journey is the goal, right?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful path, and it's unique.
Yeah.
It's uniquely ours, and there is, like, nobody can be me. Nobody has my same gifts. Nobody has your same gifts. We all have, even if they look similar, there is it. I know from spirit, because I am spirit taught, and my relationship is like, my knowing is so clear that there is no blueprint,
Yeah.
and so you can't really
There's a U print.
possess. Yeah, you can't embody, and you didn't I came in with what I came in with and what I agreed to. And I have my learnings and my teachings, and we all do. And it's all powerful. Everybody. I remember, it's funny, what's come up for me recently is my dad saying, and my dad was, I'm adopted, but my dad was whether it's relevant or not, but it's one of the wounds I signed up for, right? Abandonment. But my dad was a West Point grad attorney. My dad that who raised me was a
Gotcha.
West Point grad attorney, right? And he used to say to me all the time, Barbarino, I don't care if you're an underwater basket weaver, just be the best underwater basket
I
weaver
like
there is.
that.
And I didn't really understand. Of course, it's like, what the fuck does that mean? Is that a dad joke or whatever you think?
It's a good one.
It's a good
dad
one.
joke.
Yeah, it's become evident to me over this last 6 or 7 months that, like, in seeing this scramble and this mad dash everyone's in to find relevancy in some way to soothe their own emotional wounds of not enoughness and or whatever it is. And I realize, it's like that statement also means, like, hey, like a video Spirit had me make a month or so ago is like, showed me like going up to this bagel shop, in the etheric, in the quantum feels like going to this bagel shop and looking through the window, like, why it should be open right now, right? But it says gone life coaching or whatever. And, like, we can't all be doing this, because who's going to make hot dogs? And I like to, because I'm from Chicago, I love like hot dogs. If you could make a really good hot dog, you are gifted. You know what I mean? And that's a service.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? It's like we all have to be, whatever it is that we're here to do is so beautiful, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And powerful and in service and needed.
Yeah, that was the actual. So, with my friend I was just referencing, who was having this very powerful experience connecting and communing with my higher self the other night. A few months before was really the first time she had that level of just probably the most powerful version of that, with like her guides and communicating with them and being shown a lot about, in this case, her journey and my journey and how they interwove. And something that came through that really stuck with me is because I've had this knowing for a very long time, of, okay, in a particular timeline, I play a significant role in many lives, helping to wake a lot of people up, And then there's that whole spiritual narcissistic trap, like, I'm the one. Yeah, but everyone's the one, so chill out, And so, but, really finding my way through that over, like, the last 15 years or so. And so in this moment, some of that energy was coming through, and it's like, look, you signed up for something that's really intense. And quite honestly, a lot of the messages that were coming through were kind of intimidating. And it was like, you've signed up for something super intense and sort of playing a key role in a certain scenario. And if your ego gets in the way, you're screwed. And it's a razor's edge. And they were saying to her, even for us, it's a razor's edge. And the most important piece for you to remember is the smallest role is as important as any other role. And if you ever lose sight of that, watch out, because there's a major fall from grace kind of thing, was the sort of warning.
Dude, no. That, like, look, I don't, there's only people like that, my friends or people that I talk to off podcasts or summits, so around the same time in my garage, when I started, and is when Spirit, so by the way, so Spirit gave me the name Etheric Medicine. So we got, I know Spirit, I guess we're being brought back to this topic. In my garage when I started, so I was like, hey, how do I find people to work with? Like, if you want me to be in service, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, not just you want me to, but I want to be in service humbly, right? It was humble, like, just so grateful and awestruck, because, like, who, me? I did all, like, I've been through this and that, like, but anyway. And so when I started, Spirit said, we will send you who we want you to serve on our behalf and, theirs. And so these people started coming to me with health issues, and I could see, this is all going to wrap back around. I could see the etheric body. And then I could see, I worked with an acupuncturist. I started to see the meridians and got all these teachings, and we could talk for hours, but all the meridians needing to be lit so everything flows and da da da. And anyway, and then I could see I could see almost like a negative, right? I could see the density as whatever's not light, and stagnation, but the density, that's how they taught me, is that like this woman had level 10 plus pain every time she would pee after having her first child 11 years prior. She was
Wow.
younger, 30s, and it was ruining her life. And she was getting ready to have her bladder cut out because Western medicine couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. Well, it was astounding to me, right? Like in awe as I am every day, but in that moment, the density that was in her pelvis area, I'm not going to talk about, but like I started witnessing the events like a movie, how that density got there, what took
Wow.
place to create that density. And then I was flanked by spirit doctors on that day, handing me the tools or taking my hand and showing me what to do to dissemble that density and all those things. And long story, but then I asked spirit, because at the time I was still doing Akashic, I was opening people's records, and on that specific day, because Linda Howe has a pathway prayer process, and so I was using the pathway prayer process because I thought, and so on that day with this woman that showed up at my door, I couldn't remember the pathway prayer process. And in a moment I panicked and I was like, what the heck? And spirit said, you don't need it. We're already here with you. Your peeps are here. And so that's when they just started showing me and teaching me all those things in that session. And after that, and then a couple, like 3 or 4 other people came, and I asked spirit, what am I calling this? Because I was calling my practice, because you have to call it something, right? I was calling it Akashic medium, because dead, people on the other side were communicating and all these things. So I threw, okay, Akashic medium, and so they said etheric medicine, and I didn't know what etheric meant. I literally had no idea. So, but they told me etheric medicine. So I went to GoDaddy and I bought ethericmedicine.com, and then I Googled it. I did it first, and then I Googled what it meant. I was like, holy crap. And from that place, they just kept up leveling. And I know this is wrapping around to what you had said, that I was like, dude, was around that same time, right? Because it's humbling to be taught these things and to be in service to people. And spirit told me, as you got that message those 5.5 years ago, we will see, the world will start seeing people that have been in power or made tons and tons of money with their gifts. If they do not start giving back tenfold to humanity, their gifts will diminish.
Wow.
And there will be like a fall from grace. And you just said the same thing. And their service, right, as I say, is like, this being in service has become an industry, and it's leaving, not for everyone, of course, but it's leaving the space of truly being in service,
Right.
first and foremost. But the ego is, and the machine is really taking the place right now, which is why we're seeing the vibration lowering. And the best thing we can do is keep sending light to the vibration, so that the light wins, right?
Yeah, that's really been a challenge for me, that sort of energy. I feel it, and it troubles me a bit. As a podcaster for I guess I'm an OG podcaster, 6 years and 1,500 episodes. And, my show has done really, really well and, top rated in spirituality on iTunes and these things that, people look at when you come to stack
That's
ranking.
awesome.
And yeah, and it's like, okay, and here's what you're supposed to do, Brandon. Now you capitalize to the max and you do X number of pieces of social media a day. And I haven't played the game the way I'm supposed to, And
No, you're not supposed to.
Part of it, yeah, right. And part of it is like I see so much like it's like me kind of energy in it. And it's like, I don't in any time I'm sort of this is the way you're supposed to do it. And you would reach so many more people if you were, making these clips and doing these things. And I'm like, how about I just authentically share and just whatever happens, And so it's been a little bit of a interesting challenge for me at times to not like, I just want to be authentic. It's like, how about I post a picture on Instagram of my neighbor taking his trash out with a funny comment instead of, here I am in a glamour shot, telling you this profound, and so it's,
no, I get it. We
so
are really
much
in
of it.
sync with that. And I love that Trisenia, our mutual friend, vibed that we would vibe. And there's so much, Brandon, to say about what you're saying. And, maybe it's not on, on air, but, I get it, and I think that's why because I don't know anything about you. Trisenia said you guys are really gonna vibe. I'd love for you to, and that was enough for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I stay in the guidance, and it's like not who's like has a million followers, or whatever, but because I'm clear about what's going on, I am divinely guided, and I stay in that, and so. I fell into that trap a few times with thinking I have to have marketing and this, and I had to learn a couple real hard lessons to understand clearly from spirit. You are not supposed to stay in your authenticity. I write all my own emails. I don't bombard people. I post when I want to post. I say what I feel guided
when you feel inspired and guided and like it doesn't mean there's something wrong with someone who's all over their social media too if that's their inspiration and it's like I just don't like the cookie cutter the machine piece of it that you talked about. I don't it's like I don't want to be a cog in a wheel. I just want to be me. Whatever that looks like.
Everything's starting to sound the same. And it's everything's so what's coming through right here right now in spirit is like everything is starting to sound the same, and it's impossible that anything is the same.
I love that. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Spirit has, this is why my hair is standing. I feel my eyes are welling up because, spirit, like we are so brilliant. Things are much simpler than we make them here in physical world and our limited human mind. And when spirit drops bombs in like that, is like, we are spirit and body. We can have that level of simplicity and brilliance. It's right here in our space already. So when spirit puts things like, and that's how they do in sessions with people is like, we could talk about your story for the next 5 hours, but here, how about this? Mm-hmm. And they just go right. It's like, boom, it's simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really comes back to you're enough as you are. And so, of course, if you're telling the story that I need to look a certain way, talk a certain way, play the part, and then fall into the cookie cutter, whatever area of your life we're speaking, right? And instead of falling into that sort of pitfall, tapping into I am unique and enough exactly as I am, and we all are. And that's where your now power is going to come from. Because if you tell the story, I need to do these things in order to be successful. As a creator being, it's like abracadabra. Translates to I create as I speak. Like, so be careful with this.
Fill your body with light, man, because you're a light being. Pull in the power with the light and the, and all these things, and be on your own private journey. A couple of things are dropping in, like a couple weeks ago, I did a session with this older woman. Well, like not older. She's mid-60s, in her 60s. She was a hoot, an absolute hoot, like from New York, and had the big glasses and you know, big hair and
Yeah.
the New York, you
Yeah,
know,
accent.
vibe.
Yeah.
And she was like, look, I you know, I need you to help me understand, like, you know, I had this experience in my car this one day, and the spirit, I heard my guide say this and this, and and ever since, and I can't get him to do it again. I can't get him to do it again. And I keep trying. I'm really intent. And I sit and I do this and I do this and I do this and all these things to try to make it. It's like she's scrunching her forehead, you know? And Spirit said, you know, and her grandmother on the other side came through, I guess, right away and was like, what are you going to write? I could take out a fucking front page ad in the paper about it, you know? And she's laughing. She's like, no, I'm trying to write a book though. And if I can't get it to happen again, I won't be able. And the Spirit's like, it's not about the book. It's about you. We're talking to you so we can guide you. Shh.
Yeah.
Quiet. Or we're going to stand here with our arms folded and wait for you to simmer down and get in your body and get in your own on your own path and all of those things. So it's and so also what you're speaking to is, you know, in the last group session I did, which, you know, or maybe the second to the last, this really powerful rushing river meditation came through from Spirit, speaking about exactly this. Like, everyone's in this rushing river, clamoring and scratching and pushing each other's heads down to save themselves or whatever. It was so powerful. The visuals are so powerful. So there is just to, you know, long story short, like, stand up, plant your feet, walk out, get out of the river, stand on the shore, call to your peeps, you know, breathe in your light and be divinely guided and send everyone else in the river light and love, because there's no judgment about it or anything like that. But we don't want to be in a rushing river. We want to be in our own journey with our soul, being divinely led and healing along the way and loving along the way and sending light along the way, for sure. But our soul, because I've helped people cross, and I've watched reincarnations, and I've watched what happens when people get to the other side. I've watched, you know, people's, you know, wound choosing process before they come in and reincarnate. It's incredible.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's the truth is, and I've watched my own, which is what I had to do to understand how powerful it is. And no matter how much pain we're in, if we can start understanding we are not a victim to that, we chose it.
Yeah.
Because we knew how strong we were before we came in and got so limited. So to watch that process, and it's like putting these wounds in your basket, right, is like, and then to go before God in this beautiful collaboration and choose your purpose, your divine gorgeous purpose, and be given all the tools that you need for that purpose, and all that you need you already have, to know that. And then to watch people cross, like people that have healed what they said they were going to heal, all the way to the end, including children, all the way to the end of their human physical life, you know, in the physical body. And they get to the other side. We get to the other side and we watch the, you know, the movie of our life, if you will. And our soul witnesses ourselves in human form struggling through life. But if we find our way to purpose, the purpose we signed up for, we are elated. Not to mention transcended, right? But we are elated with our, like, we're so grateful to our soul in every cell. I can't even describe the embodied feeling, because that's the other thing, is like Spirit. Spirit puts feelings, emotion, pain in my body to help me understand what they're trying to communicate or what someone's experiencing. Sometimes in someone's actual mind, to hear the thoughts or the emotion or their own self, you know, what self beating up thoughts, whatever. And to see God, nothing happens. Like, you're not shamed if you don't find your way there. But what I'm speaking more to, what they want me to speak more to, is like, we want to find our way there. and what
Right.
we experience on a soul level in this body. Because I know I am so proud of myself and so grateful to my soul for having found my way here through all the shit. I am grateful already. I can't wait to get on the other side and be like, oh yeah. Yes, you did it. And our guides are the same. They're so proud of us.
Yeah.
But if we don't do it, it's okay too.
Yeah.
But we want to.
Yeah. And you'll just get another shot at it, and it's
Yeah.
part of the
Over and
inspiration
over
for
and over.
learning the lessons is like, okay, I don't want to learn this lesson again. Let's just go ahead and finish the job.
Knock it out.
And I often say all my inspiration comes down to, I just want a really incredible afterlife party celebrating how well I did. That is like my only motivation for anything that I do. Like, so yeah.
No, it's real. The feeling that comes through is just, it's like, that's a party for sure. Like the pride in ourselves and the joy and the gratitude in ourselves is a party in itself, much less, everyone clapping on the other side,
Right. So funny. So as we sort of wind down here, this has been such an amazing connection. I so appreciate you and your wisdom and your story. And, one of the things I love to ask is stories of synchronicity, serendipity, positive paranormal stories. And we sort of had some even unfold organically in this episode, which is cool. But I'm just curious if you have any particular story time, that pops in your mind that you think would be fun and inspiring to share.
Gosh, there's so many. Okay, yeah. So as I said, I've helped a lot of people cross, right? But Paul and his mother are here on my wall, but so Paul said it's okay if I speak about this other person, who came to me. So I was on the Global Cancer Symposium, and I got, a lot of people found me through that because Spirit has me dismantling and helping people empower themselves, right? It's about us. We have the power to heal, but we need to understand that. So that's something Spirit has me help with. And this young woman came to me. She was about 60 pounds. Her partner had to carry her in here into my clinic. And I'm like, wow, God help me, and I'm asking God, like, this is a big deal. Because I could tell, I knew already. I could see her body, her physical etheric body, and she was on all these cancer treatments and everything. And she would cry here. And amazing. Like, I don't even know how she was still alive. So she was only able to come here like 3 times, but she would cry and say, I knew nothing about her, but what she missed the most was like kayaking and being active and all these things. And her partner, so Spirit guided her to experience some things. They didn't tell her before you leave, but I knew that's what they were doing, And so she was able to like get to the beach this one particular day, and they were like, well, we'll do it on the weekend. And Spirit was like, no, go now, go right now. Like, we're 10 minutes from the beach. Like, here's the directions, because they were coming from LA. And so she made it to the beach, and the very next day, she ended up in the emergency room, and her partner reached out to me via text and said, Frances, it's okay to use her name, is in the emergency room. Can you tap in? And, is there anything? And of course I wasn't in a session, but I do it anyway. And long story short, she ended up in the ICU, and then she ended up, intubated and everything. So I had just seen her, and that was the last time alive I saw, speaking anyway in her human voice,
right,
with her physical voice. And so her partner said, her parents are here around her bed and I'm here. And is there anything that she wants to say to us and these things? And so there's a song video about it. But so I sat down and I tuned into her, to Frances. And Frances, she was already halfway out of her body, which is fascinating, right? So she was leaving. She waited for me.
Wow.
To tap in. She knew, she got her wife to get on with me, and I was on FaceTime. And so I said, point the camera at her. And I knew nothing about her. I didn't know she was a musician. I didn't know all this stuff about her and that she was a dancer. And so as she was talking to me, she left, she came up and out of her body and she started dancing. And she was doing this very beautiful, not like, hey, club dancing. It was like this beautiful tribal looking.
Wow.
Dance. And she was spinning around and she was like, I can dance. Look at my legs. Look at my feet. And it was and with pure joy. And I had only seen her broken, in tears, terrified, in absolute anguish, because she was getting mistletoe pumped into her abdomen. Like, it was this whole nother story. But she immediately started telling, and I said, I don't know, does she dance? She's dancing. And she said she wants you to come dance with her. She was like, and I said, but she's with this lady right now, and she has on this beautiful, like, garb, this bright colored tribal garb, but this and that. And so, long story short, Frances was able to tell her wife, and her wife said, oh my God, that is her spiritual teacher. And they actually did dance around a fire with this, da-da-da, and da-da-da. And that was like 20 years ago and all this other stuff. And I was like, well, so she's there with her. And she's like, well, we never knew if she was still alive because she lost touch. And I'm like, well, they're back in touch now.
Yeah. Wow.
They're both on the other side. And Frances, was telling her wife, play some music for me. And I said, can you play some music for her? And she was like, what should I play? And this is Frances is laying in her hospital bed.
Yeah, right.
Her body was laying there. And so Frances is telling her, and I'm like, have tears pouring down my face because I was so happy for Frances. I was like, sobbing. And I said, she's leaving. You understand that, right? And so she wants you to play music. So I said, turn on music. And she's like, okay, that was our favorite thing to do together. We would play music and dance. And what does she want to hear? And Frances said, be the DJ like you always are. And she was like, oh my God, that's what she called me, was the DJ. I'm like, yeah, it's her calling you the DJ. Like, this is not me.
I'm just a translator.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is Frances talking to you using my voice. And so it was her parents, she's from the Philippines, I believe. And so her parents were in the room. And it helped them so much to know that their child was not in pain anymore, that she was dancing, she's with her friend, she was talking to her wife and playing music. So she started playing music, and she just played music until Frances said, okay, that's enough. And then they asked me to come to the hospital. This is probably a longer story than you wanted to hear, but it's important. So it's because that's what Spirit was like. Okay, they all kind of lined up and took turns. Who's going to get to tell the story? So Frances wants her story told. So they asked me, is there any way you could come physically to the hospital? I was like, will they let me? Because,
Yeah.
So they did. The hospital gave permission for me to come, and I canceled all my sessions for the day. And on my way there, driving through LA on the 10, I said, Frances, why? Because I actually it was an hour before I could leave. And so I was worried that she wasn't. I'm like, she's going to cross before I get there, So I checked in after I did do a session. And I checked in and I was like, is she still with us, like I didn't know how else to say that. And she said, yeah. But, I said, okay, well, I'll be there in like an hour, it says. So I asked Francis on the way there, I was like, why are you still what are you doing?
Right.
Why are
Right.
you still around? No disrespect, but,
Yeah.
and she said, I'm waiting for you and 2 other friends.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, okay. And so I got there and I walked in and I got up to the parked and I walked out of the elevator and I met, and her wife was standing there and there were these 2 other women standing there. And they said, oh, 2 of Francis's friends just got here 30 seconds ago from San Francisco. So now we can all go in. And I was like, okay, Francis, it's go time, right? And I knew because I was in constant communication with Francis, and we went into the room, and they started playing guitar and singing with her like they always had. Like I know, but they were doing what they always did when they hung out. They were dear, dear friends, and within a minute, the nurse came in and unplugged her, and Francis asked me to help her leave. And because she was having trouble, she was enjoying the time with her friends and the singing and everything. So she's kind of started having a hard time and she got scared.
Yeah.
And so God is like, I just kept talking to her, and I went and I stood on the side so her family could be there. And I started like, taking her, like it was the most profound experience, taking my hands and going, and reaching her, because we can travel through the quantum field. Obviously, that's how I do. Like most of my sessions are via Zoom all over the world. And I used my hands and I spoke to her, and I took my hands and I helped. Her soul wanted to come out through her chest, which was fascinating to me. I didn't even know that was. And I just took and I was helping her and I was talking to her, and then she went whoosh.
Wow.
And laughed, and it came out of my physical mouth. I guess it needed to. I said, there she goes.
Wow.
And her mom looked over at me from across the room, and I was smiling, which I was like, that's not, oh my God, stop smiling.
Yeah.
But I was like, is that okay? And then she flatlined.
Wow.
And it was the most beautiful experience.
Wow.
And it's true for, this is, I think this story is because, and I've watched children cross and leave their bodies, and they're immediately reconnected with their higher selves. They're not a child mind, they're their brilliant mind, because that's who we all are, right?
Yeah.
And
yep.
so it is, death, quote unquote, leaving the physical body is really beautiful.
Yeah.
And we are immediately met. Our loved ones and our guides and our angels are near us and come and be around us in that space, and we're not afraid.
Yeah.
And even when I witnessed her being a little hesitant, is like she went, they came and we all helped her go, but the joy that we immediately, our pain is gone, whether it's emotional, physical, whether it's illness, whether it's whatever, a car accident or that. It's like, it's really such a beautiful truth, and how brilliant we all are and powerful we are in our true self, like at our soul. And to start, the biggest message is that we can start really living in that and calling to that right now.
Yeah.
While we're still in our physical and we're being asked to do so.
Yeah. So inspiring. What an inspiring story. Obviously we'll all face that day in our own way, and with loved ones and with, all of that. And it's just
whenever that is, we don't know.
Yeah. And it's such a reframing to, smile and laugh about it, getting the perspective of the person transitioning. Like, yeah, that's such potent medicine, I think, for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was such a gift. Like, what a beautiful honor that was.
Yeah, indeed. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an honor as well to connect. And I know
Same. Thank
those
you.
listening, will, some will feel inspired to connect and follow your work and possibly participate in some of the offerings that you have. So maybe you can talk for a moment about that, and then we'll tell them how to find you.
Yeah, so I'm going to start doing, I think in a week or so, I'm going to do another group session, but you'll find it all on my website,
Mm-hmm.
which is ethericmedicine.com, ETHERIC medicine.com. Also BobbiVogel.com goes to the same place, but I have a lot of spirit gifts right on, on my website, on the homepage. There's a beautiful, channeled 7-day gratitude journal that, even after I did, because I was guided to do it, and after I finished with it and I read it myself, I was like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
there's and it's not just gratitude, of course, gratitude, it's like, well, number one, that does shift your whole life, but there's a lot in there. And it's clear to me that it's tools, spirits reaching to add. It's a way to connect with your guides as well.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful communing with your soul and your guides as well. And then the breathing the light exercise that Spirit taught me 5.5 years, that's on there. And then I do, private one-on-one sessions. You can find that on there. And
Great. We'll put a link in the
need.
show. We'll put a link in the show notes then for you guys.
Yeah,
to check
and
it
I'm
out.
going to give you, and hopefully, and people can go to you and find a link for the private sessions, as well on all of your stuff. So
yeah, you know what
awesome.
what I can do if is, I guess I could go and put positivehead.com/Bobbi, BOBBI, and then it'll forward to all the things,
right.
and any hookups for Positive Head listeners. That's because we got some time till this comes out. So I'll do that, and also put that link in the notes for you guys. And yeah, I mean, what an incredible...
this was great. I'm gonna come hang out with you in Venice.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're so close. Your old stomping grounds, literally. Yeah. And we do events fairly regularly, and I think we're going to do one Halloween. So if you're around, come on up. And so
I have a 12-year-old stepson at home, so Halloween, I'm like, this is the last year you're going.
Yeah. Well, it's actually going to be, I think we're going to do the 30th. So so yeah. So perhaps that would align.
Well, let's stay in touch, and I really look forward to it. Do you hang out with the guys at the church on the corner, that spiritual community?
I know of it, but I don't know that they're still there. The building is. I know what you're talking about, but I feel like it's up for sale, or was.
It's always been. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, no, I've never been over there, but I've heard great things. So
yeah, he's amazing.
I should check that out sometime. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll swing through, or maybe even when you come up here, we can check it out.
Yeah, we can go up there. We walk and go get some lunch and hang out, and I'm looking forward to it. What a great connection.
Yes, indeed. I do have one final question for you.
Okay.
My cliche closer, and it is this: in 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Bobbi Vogel?
The meaning of life is coming in, for me, healing our wounds, as we've been talking about. This is the meaning of life: coming in, honoring our soul, healing our wounds, showing compassion first for ourselves, for others, love unconditional for ourselves and others, finding our way to purpose, being in service, and honoring our soul.
Yeah, love that. Thank you for honoring your soul and helping us to edify our souls today. This has been such a pleasure.
This is awesome.
And all of you out there listening, thank you for tuning in your beautiful brainwaves and incredible hearts. Until next time, journey well. Also, before we sign off, I wanted to remind you to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can find the book and unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.